You know what? I'm just gonna shake it up a bit. Let's just start. No intro. No zombies. Let's just begin
We
it.
killed the zombies. They're all dead.
Yes, and listen. If you listen very carefully, it's spring here. Like finally, things are actually growing again. Yeah. Well, actually, in where I am, spring doesn't fuck around. It's more like directly to summer.
I
So.
I got up and to drive my kid to school this morning, and my car was under like a millimeter of yellow pollen. It just was completely covered with pollen.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm also dealing with the effects of the trees, all sort of, the tree bukake that is spring.
Yeah, no, they just like freaking shoot their sperm everywhere. It's
Huh.
like, who splooged on my car? Like, fuck you, fucking tree. So,
Oh,
god damn.
yeah. Okay, so do we want to just start?
Yes, the codger
Just,
looks like he's got some issues. He looks like he's like walking around in downtown Beijing.
or maybe he's just dealing with the tree spooge that
Could
all
be,
the that
could
all
be.
the
I want to know what's going on with the culture.
the tree spooge, all the tree penises are ejaculating into the air. All right, let's do this thing.
Is penis worship at the root of the bogus notion of fetal personhood?
No, I don't think so.
I don't like seriously. Like when I read that title, my first response was like, what? What? Um, I can't wait. I haven't read the article. I just read the title of the article, and I watched the first little, minute or so of Codger here narrating it. Um, and that's all I know. So I don't know how this author is going to manage to tie these two things together, but I'm really looking forward to it.
It's one
Yeah,
of the
actually,
goddamn WTF moments I've ever fucking read. The whole thing.
oh my God, I've actually, because of the codger, this feels less like fishing a turd out of a sewer and more like opening a chocolate bar. And it's only because of the codger. It's like he makes every stupid thing better. So I'm like I'm actually with you, Karen. I'm sort of anticipating what's going to happen next. Let's find out.
The notion that life begins at conception is a variation on a very ancient and very sexist cultural theme.
Okay, actually, I read that that's actually very recent, and that even if you look in the Bible, or life was supposed to begin at something called the quickening, which was, I think, several months into pregnancy when
Yeah,
the
no, it was
woman.
it was it was about 4 months into pregnancy when you get those sort of ginger ale feelings in your belly. The very first moments that you can actually feel the baby kick, right? That the baby's actually making itself known in a concrete way. You can actually feel it in there. That would be what the quickening would be probably referring to. So
Yeah, the
yeah,
only ancient thing is the notion that life begins when you can definitely tell there's a baby in there.
yeah.
That's because that's all they had. They didn't know what conception was.
Well,
Like,
and
it
if
was
the
9 months.
fetus at that point is like the size of your thumb, right? And doesn't look anything like a human, and miscarriages are common, most common in the first 3 months of pregnancy. You might know that you're pregnant, but like it was never a given. I mean, it was never a given that just because you're pregnant, right? You've missed your period. Oh, you're with child or whatever, right? That was going to actually end up with a baby, right? It was just something that you just always. I mean, there are some cultures where you don't even name the kid for a year because for a year you still don't know whether this is like a viable thing, whether you can expect that you're going to have a child at the end of a year. So, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I think So well, it's a good start. You've already started with a misunderstanding of history, but let's continue.
I'm slow sometimes. But after years of writing about abortion rights, it finally occurred to me that life begins at conception is one more version of a multi-millennial infatuation with the penis as symbol and proof that manliness is next to godliness.
What? I just don't.
What? Is it, a citation, please? I'm pretty sure that I'm I'm pretty sure that the penis is not something that that necessarily people worshipped.
I'm pretty sure that like there probably wasn't a whole lot of talk about God's wang in the Bible.
No,
Does God even have genitals in the Bible? I know the angels are
He managed to impregnate someone, but it was divine.
Yeah, no.
It was immaculate.
No.
So no cop involved. No.
And on top of that, I mean, like you look at the cultures that did actually sort of they didn't deify the penis, but like they kind of liked it, they admired it. They sometimes had festivals, of penises and vaginas. They had artwork extolling the virtues of the penis and the vagina and things like that, right? Sometimes they valued the penis more, maybe, I don't know, but most of those cultures had a they had a concept
celebrated both.
no, but they also had a concept of God as imperfect. They had a concept of, the Romans, right, and the Greeks. They had a concept of gods who were hubristic, immature, mercurial, finicky, selfish, envious, right? All kinds of human flaws in their gods, right? So, I mean, the cultures that actually celebrated the penis in that way were cultures that did not see godliness the way this woman is portraying our idea of godliness as sort of this perfect, all-knowing, all-loving, omnipotent, always right. God is always correct. Yeah, no, that didn't exist in those cultures that did those things that sort of celebrated the penis. So even if the penis was celebrated as being next to godliness, well, okay, like the gods did some fucked up shit back then, right? And they weren't really that great. Humans equally, it wasn't even a matter of staying on the right side of God and always doing what God wanted and you'd stay out of trouble. No, like sometimes it was just like, fuck, God, this God wanted to bang your wife, so tough shit. Like
Yeah.
that. So
Let's not forget. Echo, Karen. There we go. Let's not forget. For every Jesus statue, there's also a Mary statue. For every praise Jesus, there's 10 Hail Marys. And what's Jesus famous for? Dying. What's Mary famous for? Her magic vagina. So, yeah.
Well, her magic untouched vagina. Well, maybe not magic, but magic because it was pure or something. But yeah, it's I think that the penis is not. I think with Christianity, the penis got a pretty bad rap, which would explain why when Christian societies encountered Roman statues, they just started to cut those inappropriate bits off with a chisel. Yeah, it's like, and I mean, the Romans did actually have a cult of the phallus as the center of Rome, but that's over 2,000 years ago, and all it does is serve as an example of, yeah, our society isn't like that. I mean, in Rome, the day that a boy first ejaculated in his bed sheets, there was like a celebration and a parade, and they would like run him around in the city and be like, yes, my boy is a man now, blah blah blah, right? That was that kind of worship. Our society isn't exactly like that. I don't see, parents taking the bed sheets of their teenage boys after they've ejaculated in them and running around saying, "My boy is a man now. Celebrate it."
All their periods, by the way, before anyone goes there, but it's because coming is generally a good thing, and that the other thing's generally a bad thing. That's why there's bad feelings associated with it.
Yeah, well, I mean, not a bad thing as in bad, just uncomfortable and not fun. But I think they might have actually done that too.
Well,
'Cause
no,
they're-
and even if they didn't, I mean, like a period is very different from. I mean, it shows that you're capable of carrying a child, but it also shows that you're like not carrying a child. And if you have sort of a whole society that's very focused on, like we gotta build the next generation, we gotta make some more human beings here. Then it's sort of like one is a celebration of, okay, here's what he can do to do that, and here's evidence that she's not doing that at this point. So I think they're fundamentally different.
If you want to celebrate your daughter's first orgasm, please do. I'm all for it. Perhaps the male equivalent of that is a boy's first fight. It's sort of nothing to be proud of, but at least it's sort of, hey, you got through it. Well done.
Okay, let's see what else this person has to say.
On the surface, conservative, evangelical, and Catholic insistence that life begins at conception appears to be aimed at elevating the status of fetus over women. But just beneath that surface, what it elevates is the status of the penis.
Okay, no, right? Because she's conflating two different things, two completely different things. One is whether a fetus at conception is alive, which it is, right? And the other is whether it's a person, which very few people, I think, will actually say, yes, no, this is a person, right? I mean, they would not necessarily, well, I mean, you have to go pretty far to say like an anencephalic child, a child with no upper brain, just the brainstem, absolutely has nothing in there. Is you wouldn't bestow personhood on somebody who does not have any higher function whatsoever and who's just a body. So, but I mean, like, alive versus personhood. And then there's an entire other argument, right, as to once we've decided the point of personhood, where we assign personhood to a thing, right, does that person, that human being, that human person, is that person deserving of rights, and how do we balance the rights of that person versus the rights of the person that is currently necessary to its continued existence, right? These are all three of them completely different questions, right? And she's just kind of smooshing them all together into like this kind of soup that, like, it's a slurry of nonsense. And then at the end of which she says penis. And
yes, how did penis get in here? Like, to assume this, you'd have to assume that the woman plays no part whatsoever in conception, and that's not true.
Not only this, right? I mean, like, and you sort of see this conflation too. Like, remember a couple years ago there was that stupid state rep in wherever the fuck, United States somewhere, right? Who proposed a bill that would outlaw vasectomy because and masturbation or something like that for men, because it was the exact same thing as abortion, right? Allowing all those sperm to die was the exact same thing as like forcibly terminating a fetus, right? and I'm just thinking to myself, okay, so basically what you're saying is every time a woman has a period, that's against the law. She's committing a criminal offense, the way every man who spills his seed on unfertile ground is committing an offense, right? And tubal ligation, that should be illegal because it's, it's the exact same thing as killing a fetus, right? But they seem to they just there's no fucking ability there to see these differences in category. It's bizarre. It's fucking bizarre to me.
The only constant seems to be that women are victims. So.
And anyone who has one.
So it's the elevation of the penis in anyone who has one. Okay.
What creates the wonder of a new person? Forget about the maturation of germ cells and the 9-month labor of a woman's body and the painstaking parental nurture. It's a sperm! A penile projection shot forth by the ultimate organ of demi-divinity.
Oh, God. You know what? We gotta get through this, but... Oh, Karen Echo. I just wanted to say, even at the beginning of conception, the woman's body is not doing nothing. And there's some evidence that there is it doesn't even passively eject an egg. The egg actually makes chemical not decisions, but does chemical things to affect the outcome. So there's no idea that the conception doesn't include a woman, and in order to advance this notion, you have to exclude women's I would want to say biological agency, like their body's own activity. In order to make this assertion, you have to do this. And then she turns around and blames us for removing women's agency when she's doing exactly that to turn them into a victim of penises. And to prioritize the penis as the only... She is saying, she's making the penis central to conception when it isn't. It is paired with the woman's own body. So she's doing exactly what she argues other people do to women.
I always thought, takes two to tango, right? I actually saw some very interesting footage. It was extremely interesting. I forget what series it was. Might have been a Desmond Morris sort of TV documentary series, maybe The Naked Ape. But they actually went in with a fiber optic camera during sex, right? To videotape all of the stuff that's happening inside the woman's vagina during sex. And they showed an internal view of the woman. She was obviously lying on her back, and then she was his penis was out of there. She was stimulating herself to orgasm, and when she orgasmed, her cervix went into a kind of spasm that repeatedly dipped it into the puddle of semen over and over and over again, right? Which is facilitating fertilization.
Yeah, it's not a passive act on the part of women, but she's making it out to be.
Yeah.
And also she's making it out to be to emphasize all of this other stuff. But okay, so if conception doesn't make a child, but labor and birth, well, how about the 18 years of resources to get a child to reproductive maturity? Like, does that count? Like, and if a woman has the say over, it is in conception, and a woman has to say over the resources, the 9 months of resources, because it's not conception that makes a child, it's the 9 months of resources. But of course, it's not the 18 years of resources that makes an adult, so or a person, like a citizen. It just seems so arbitrary. Anyway.
Sperm penetrates egg, and voila, a person, a new soul. All the extraordinary and unique value we accord to human life is created instantaneously.
It's called sexual reproduction, as opposed to asexual reproduction.
of penis.
The mere idea, I'm sorry, but the mere idea that we value the male's contribution more than we value the female's contribution, biological contribution, right? That we value his teaspoon of ejaculate full of constantly regenerating gametes more than we value her finite number of eggs and her the rental space in her uterus, right? For which men have for millennia paid with their blood and their sweat and their tears in order to essentially rent that space. They have had to promise, yes, I'm going to pay for this woman for the rest of her life. That's how men got access to sex, right? Now, to think that that teaspoon of ejaculate is considered superior to what the woman contributes biologically, the minimum biological investment on the part of the woman, right? When men have been forced to pay for it with a lifelong commitment to put food on the table and a roof over her head.
Yeah, there's not much a woman has asked for in exchange for his access to his ejaculate, his baby batter, as it were.
His dick chowder.
Yeah. Okay. I sense that this could go on a very long.
Once noticed, the pattern is inescapable. Our ancestors thought that the penis was literally divine. Dharmic cultures worshipped it by whacking stalactites and stalagmites out of caves, and air roots off of trees, and carving phallic shapes out of granite by the thousands.
That's one thing about the penis. It's very easy to carve. It can't really be said about a vagina. Call me a biological determinist on this particular point, but they say rockets are phallic as well. But yeah, it's called aerodynamics.
Yeah, no, I think vagina-shaped missiles probably wouldn't fly very well.
Abrahamic cultures took the opposite approach, and
this is so funny.
Insisted the penis was so precious and powerful that it couldn't be seen, even in art, and had to be chiseled off of statues, or at least covered with fig leaves.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
So the fact that they disfigured Roman statues is indication that they prized penises so much. That's why they took the depiction of the penis and broke it apart.
Yeah, and they hated titties. That's why they left them in there.
Yeah.
Fucking hell.
It's like no matter what you do, all roads lead to the conclusion.
Yeah.
If they leave the penises on, obviously they worship the penis. If they take them off, obviously the penis is so holy nobody can look at it.
Fucking hell. Oh God.
Yeah, this is just okay. All right. I think that you are winding your way to an already predetermined conclusion, and I think we all know what that is, and that is that women are victims.
Yes.
Sorry. I think.
They also insisted that a man's magic wand could permanently transform a female from one kind of being to another, from a prized virgin into a worthless whore.
Yeah, no, but that's not about how much they love the penis. It's about how much they didn't like it.
And a black person's company could transform a proper white person into a nigger lover. But that is that's just evidence
of how much we love niggers.
Jesus Christ. And for anybody who's listening here, we use that in disgust at the whole concept. That the company, or even the intimate company of any group, transforms another group into a depraved shadow of itself. It is a worthless object of its former self. But that doesn't mean that the group that's being transformed by the other group's company, that doesn't mean that they're the ones that who are ultimately being insulted. Blackness wasn't a magic spell.
Or that something that we worshipped. We worshipped blackness. We admired it so much that yeah, and we hated women so much that, you know, or whatever. We considered women to be objects so much, and we loved blacks so much that the moment that a black man and a white woman had sex with each other, she was transformed into something awful because his dick was just that powerful. No, it wasn't his dick that was that. It was just that people didn't like. I mean, and this is driving me crazy too, because the entire fucking culture was essentially designed up until very recently to prevent anybody from having sex outside of marriage. It's like this we were much closer to the way things are done under Sharia, you know, in Islamic countries, where it's just like, keep men and women apart. Nobody should be having any unsanctioned sex. No sex outside of marriage whatsoever. But, okay, maybe you might need to take your son to a prostitute because he has a responsibility to know how to have sex when he gets married.
Okay, I just wanted to point something out from what you said, because something clicked in my mind. Once again, and this is a feminist, this feminist is advocating an argument in which black men are on the apex, if you think about it. If men's magic wand is what transforms a woman from a virgin into a whore, and that's just an evidence of how powerful and special and how much we worship the male penis, then the fact that black male penises are considered the most powerful wands means that, once again, feminism has put black men on the apex of this particular privilege. That's fucking amazing. Think about it. Because
maybe she watches a lot of BBC porn.
Oh, big black. Yeah. Oh, maybe she does. Maybe this is her own private worship.
With petite white girls.
Do you happen to know about the amazing change that happens to a man's identity if he's caught fucking a goat? Does that mean we all worship goats?
Good point. All right.
In medieval Catholicism's recipe for sexual hang-ups, the prior touch of a penis, or lack thereof, became the most defining aspect of a woman's identity.
I know, because she started off clean and he started off dirty, and then he put his penis in her and rubbed some of his dirt off on her, and then she became dirty. He couldn't make himself less dirty. He's just inherently dirty. Right? So he can't transform. He can't transcend that. He's just inherently dirty. And no matter what he does, right? I mean, his sexual partners can't... He's just harming his sexual partners. He's dirtying them, right? With his dirt, with his filth, with his nastiness, with his baseness. That's what he's doing. He's pulling them down to his level. Oh my fucking God. Do you even listen to yourself? Did you have anybody proofread this before you put it up? What the fuck?
Right, and I'd like to add that the Untouchables are named the Untouchables for a reason, because they have such incredible power to turn, other castes, to degrade other castes by their very touch. Obviously, the Untouchables are on the top of the hierarchy, and once again, I have to note that the penises throughout most of the Western history that were considered the most degrading, the most powerful in turning a woman from one state to another.
I know, and so were the lepers.
Tended to belong to minority men. Yes, this is what feminism gives minority men. Jesus Christ.
Value and moral virtue.
Oh, wait. I just had a thought.
Female and voila.
I just had a thought. What about the white woman's vagina's ability to transform a black man from alive to dead?
I know, isn't that interesting?
or a man of any lower class from alive to dead. Or and not even it wasn't even a vagina, just even her symbolic vagina. Say he whistled at her in a way suggestive that he could have her. Oh, that could also get him killed. Was that considered powerful?
Oh, I think it was. I think it was not only powerful, it was something to be worshipped and admired. Uh-huh.
Yeah, the untouched, the virginal untouched, even metaphorically untouched and unobtainable vagina. Oh, fuck. I mean, because if we're going to argue that point, we're going to argue and say, well, penises changed women from virgins into women who went to the nunnery to give birth, and then go back to their family and that was never spoken of again. If penises changed women into that, then vaginas also changed certain marginalized men, or even just the idea that they could access those vaginas that they weren't supposed to, also changed marginalized men from alive to dead. That sounds like a power. Let's see what the cadre has to say.
Oh, no longer a whole person. The same magic wand that made her valuable could also do the reverse.
When did it make her valuable? Oh, that's right, when it allowed her to live. Yeah, it's sexual organism, not asexual organism. It didn't make her valuable, it gave her half of her genes. Unless it's a test tube baby, in which case you might as well say the eggs smothered the fucking sperm. There was no penetration involved.
Well, I know, and it didn't just make her, like, it made her viable as an adult, right? You know, like this penis is paying for the roof over your head, it's paying for the food in your belly, it's standing outside the house fending off marauders, it's performing back-breaking, strenuous labor out in the fields with no bug spray or sunscreen, right, for 16 hours a day. It's doing all of this. This penis is doing all of this for you, right, to earn its way into your valuable vagina.
But it's the penis that gives the vagina value. No, I think it's the man doing the work that gives your vagina value, not the penis.
Oh, it doesn't even know. Her vagina has value. It has enough value that it can command that the man do the work in order to even be able to have access to it. And it's like the man is not giving her value. She has that value, right? And the only way that she cannot be seen as having damaged her value is if she gives it away for free, right? Okay, this is really the hilarious part. Or if she gives it away for a single payment over a single slut, or if she's a prostitute, right? So she's giving it away for free. She's not charging for it. She's not charging a lifetime of support and protection for it, or she's charging for it, but just a pennies on the dollar compared to what she could get, right? That's when she's seen as losing value because she could charge so much more.
And she doesn't. So she's losing value. Okay.
She's looked at as somebody who sold her fucking Bugatti, like her fucking Maserati, for the price of a fucking Kia.
Yep. And the thing is that this isn't necessarily a socialization that I support. I don't think Karen necessarily does. I don't want to speak for her. So don't get us on saying, oh yeah, you're fucking trad-cons. It's ridiculous. This entire architecture is ridiculous.
We're describing the values of traditionalism that she has flipped on their heads, because the values of traditionalism were that a woman who gave her sexuality away, right, who was promiscuous, was damaging herself, right? A man who gave his sexuality away, who was promiscuous, was damaging his partners.
Yeah, and they're putting this on their head, like the
Same old, same old. Fundamentalists who are anchored to the Iron Age by sacred texts and patriarchal traditions still hold to this archaic view, though they may use outdated terms like licked lollipop or chewed gum, and
Never
some
heard
do
either
offer
of those.
second chances through born-again virginity.
What? Oh, what? Licked lollipop or
Really?
chewed?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. They're trying to emphasize the idea that you lose by being touched by a man, you lose value, which means that men have all the value. Right. Let's continue.
In the West, me and millennials finally are catching on to how ridiculous the whole virginity thing is. As one Facebook meme put it recently, I don't believe in virginity. Why? Because nobody's penis is important enough to change any part of my identity.
Awesome Facebook meme, dude. Cool story, bro. Cool story. Best
What?
epigram ever.
Okay, so now we don't refer to men as virgins because we do that as well.
yeah. But I mean, like I can totally understand that, you know, like sort of the idea of, well, I mean, maybe not like discarding the concept of virginity, but just not giving it so much power. I can actually get behind that. Like I don't think there's anything special about a virgin, and I don't think that there's anything special about a non-virgin. I always am happy when somebody who, you know, particularly somebody who's a virgin, they're like 26 or they're 30 or they're 32, right? And they've never experienced that, and they finally get to, and it's whether they're male or female, right? And there is really something to be said, no matter how good you are at masturbating, whether you're male or female, there is something to be said for the experience of lying down with another person and knowing what that's like and feeling that and being skin to skin and having their pheromones wafting up your nose and the whole bit, and having a guy's semen, you know, being absorbed into the walls of your vagina, and then the feel-good hormones are, you know, showing up in your bloodstream within half an hour to 45 minutes, right? There's something to be said for that, and for the intimacy and the cuddling and the lying together and the, you know, and just the lazy stroking of each other's bodies afterwards and all of those things. I mean, like, those are all wonderful human experiences, and yes, it really sucks if you're somebody who wants that and you can't manage to get that, whether you're a male or a female. And so, I mean, I can understand this sort of concept of virginity as a state of being, right? But I don't think it's a state of being that has any particular value anymore. And I don't think that having sex necessarily needs to be the be-all and end-all. I mean, like, there's too much importance put on just that change between virgin and non-virgin. I think that, like, I can sort of get behind that idea of, you know, that the sexual act itself, intercourse, right, vaginal intercourse, it is really immaterial. It's neither here nor there. It's not the end all be all. It's not the only reason why somebody would want to be sexual with another person. It's not the only value to be had in sex, and it's not the goal. It's not the end goal. The end goal is something above that.
I just wanted to note. Oops, sorry. Go ahead.
Like I've held for some time this idea that I did a video on this like 6 years ago. That if anything, then there should be a name for someone who is experienced in sex, rather than a name for someone who's never had it, and not just someone who's had it once, someone who's had it, you know, enough times to know what they're doing. It's one of the only things where we have a name for someone who hasn't done it, rather than a name for someone who has done it. You're not called a non-driver until you learn to drive, and then you're nothing. You're not a any other verb, but for some reason it's the other way around with sex. You're a thing until you have sex, and then you're nothing. So I'm with the author on the, or, you know, to some degree I'm with the Facebook meme on this.
Okay.
It's sort of
we have sex and then we become sexually active. I mean, that is a category. That's a common phraseology. But
You know,
yeah,
But there's no noun, is there? You think the noun would be the go-to, but there's an obvious noun that everyone's heard of that means someone who's never had sex, and there's no obvious, catchy noun for someone who has had sex, like
yet
sex
we have
haver.
nouns.
oh,
We have
you know
nouns
what,
for every other activity.
you know what that noun was up until like 70 years ago? Married.
Yeah. Okay, what I wanted to point out is, and this is something that's on my mind because I just finished breaking the ice on origining for whenever it's going to go out, but in which a bunch of feminists pretended to be men's rights activists, and then they pretended to be lizard people or something, and they said, "Yeah, we've done a good job sowing discord between the sexes," and I'm like listening to this, and I'm thinking, okay, and then I watched this, and oh my God, why did you have to frame this in terms of a power struggle between you and men as a group? I'm reclaiming. I don't believe in virginity because I don't think penises have that much power over me. Why did you turn that into a fucking power struggle?
Yeah, no, I mean, she could easily have said, I don't believe sex has that much power over me.
Or not even that. And how would you know if you're a virgin, by the way, how much power penises have over you? But why would you turn that into a power? I mean, I can't even imagine thinking how awful your sex life is going to be if you consider it an internal power struggle with your partner. Well, I guess
Or
that
his
could be
penis,
fun.
anyway.
Or his penis. Like that's okay. Well, there you go. Do you have to see every kind of intimacy as a power struggle? That's sort of fucked up. And the funny thing is,
That's the entire way feminists look at sex. I mean, like women as a class can't consent to sex because they don't. Women, all heterosexual sex is rape because women as a class do not have the wherewithal, the political power required to meaningfully grant consent. That means that because women cannot say no and have their no respected every single time they say it, because of political reasons or some shit, not because some fucking psycho decided to disregard their no. Women as a class cannot give meaningful consent, therefore all heterosexual sex is rape. That is all to do with power struggle. They have politicized sex. They have turned the entire thing into like a macrocosmic, society-wide reflection of a really fucked up view of BDSM. Not the BDSM that actually exists in most of the community that practices it, where the submissive is actually topping from the bottom, right? And the dom is actually just the one who takes on the work and responsibility and is completely focused on what the submissive wants, right? And on their consent, right? Because the submissive is the one who's actually in control, right? No. Not that version of BDSM, but some fucked up rape version of BDSM, right? And they just project all of that onto wider society, all of this fucked up power shit, right? And it affects every aspect of a woman's life, from the moment she goes and picks up the newspaper off her front porch to every moment she lies back and closes her eyes and thinks of England while her husband has his disgusting way with her, right?
yeah.
Ugh!
I don't think that she's going to extend this to rape, however. That's still going to remain the most devastating and defining aspect, if it ever happens to her, which, God forbid, but that's going to be, she's going to continue to hold a part of her heart for the idea that rape is going to forever change her completely, and just completely alter her entire mental landscape and emotional
It'll
landscape.
change her fundamentally, absolutely 100%. Sex cannot change her fundamentally, except for that one kind.
Yeah, rape. And maybe feminists will create a version of virgin that just means unraped. Okay, let's
That's actually
The
awesome.
idea that a penis
Do that. I think we should suggest that to them.
If you're a feminist listening here, we found a missing piece in your lexicon. You need a word for women who haven't been raped yet. Or, yeah, that you know, to replace virgin.
As opposed to survivor, like undead, perhaps.
Okay.
penis can permanently change a woman's value, and the idea that a penis can instantaneously create a new soul, both derive from the idea that men uniquely were made in the image of God, and that the penis, circumcised of course, is...
What?
Um,
Why would...
Cannot wrap any part of my brain around this at all.
Why would... All right. And first of all, circumcision in the West didn't come about because of any god shit. It came about because of the progressives wanting to prevent masturbation and pleasure and miscegenation and homosexuality.
well, that was about God, though. A lot of that was sort of, religious Puritanism and stuff like that.
But it wasn't about the idea that the penis brought these boys closer to God. It was about that their penises drove them further from God.
Yeah.
the supreme symbol of man's divinely anointed headship. And once they are packaged together, the idea that life begins at conception starts sounding as transparently male-aggrandizing and silly as the idea of virginity.
It's still trying to wrap some part of my brain around it. It's like suggesting that people in the dark parts of the Muslim world obviously worship the vagina, circumcised, of course. Like. No, you didn't build that. Yes, the occasional sperm does end up inside an egg rather than a towel. And yes, sperm penetrates egg is a necessary, if insufficient, step in person formation. But the incredible process of making a new person begins long before conception and continues long after. To the trained eye, conception is no more or less magnificent or critical than the creation of the egg or the sperm itself, or the many stages of transformation that come after. In the subconscious of a patriarchal male or religious institution intent on preserving privilege, the claim that a penis can create a new person, or better yet a new soul, almost ex nihilo, may flow naturally and logically from man's godlike qualities and rightful dominance, but from an outside vantage, the men making such claims seem rather like puffed-up architects who scribble partial plans and then claim they build buildings. Nice fantasy, but in the real world, both buildings and people get made one step at a time. Construction is slow and hard and takes teamwork.
What the fuck?
Okay, no. I mean, okay, here's the thing, right? People with fields of like rape, okay, which would be what, alfalfa or no, canola. People with fields of canola, otherwise known as rape, they hire beekeepers to come and bring honeybees to their fields so that all of those bright yellow flowers get pollinated, because the bees are needed, right? They're absolutely 100% necessary to the process of pollinization. Same with all kinds of fruit crops and other things. And to the point where actually there were 83 hives stolen from a local farm where they also kept bees and rented them out, and that was $200,000 a year of income for that farm just in renting out their bees and harvesting the honey. So yeah, bees are important, right? They're important. They're not the only thing. We also need pollen, and we need freaking pistils and stamens.
I just don't get
But we need bees too, right? And like the entire, like, do you ever see two fucking slugs arguing over which one of their dicks sticking into the side of the other one's head, right, was more important than the other?
It is sort of a. First of all, where do fundamentalists even talk about this shit? Like the idea that it's the man's ejaculate that makes a baby. Like this is just complete and utter, like she's just pulling this out of her ass.
Well, I mean, there is a lot of rhetoric around, the fact that men are necessary, that the man has to impregnate the woman, right? There has to be an impregnation on the part of the man, like that he actually has a role to play in this.
I don't think that human society is more emphasizing that point than Mother Nature, though, Karen. Like
I know.
That's what does my head in. There is no conception without ejaculation at some point, or unless it's they retrieve the sperm by some sort.
In fact, ladies, and I hate to have to break this news to you, but it's entirely possible that female orgasm is like male nipples. Okay? That the only reason women orgasm is because men have to in order to reproduce, because female orgasm is not necessary. It's not even consistently helpful. There's no increase in the rate of baby having between women who are orgasmic and women who are not. There's just none of that. There's just not even increase in difference in frequency of having sex between orgasmic women and women who are not orgasmic. So, yeah.
Well,
men have to ejaculate. Men have to be able to do that.
Yeah, that's true.
And maybe the only reason you get to orgasm is because men have to. Just like the only reason men have nipples is because you need to have them.
Okay. All right. I think that she's sort of, these are really thin threads here that she's sewing together. And her humble brag at the beginning doesn't make me any more convinced that this works as a concept. That pro-life people are actually celebrating the penis when they say that life begins at conception. I think that probably no. I think they just have a different opinion about when life begins than you do, and it's informed by more modern science. And nobody really knew what happened before we could see it happen. It's just the way it is, and it doesn't. Penises are necessary, and also ovulation is necessary. I'm not sure why you can't take this the other way. That fundamentalists are prioritizing ovulation, or the process of an ovum accepting a sperm into it, which is actually an active process. The ovum makes the choice, insofar as a gamete can make a choice. So, are they celebrating that choice, or are they saying, "Oh no, we shouldn't get rid of the choices of the chemical decision making of the gamete ovum"? We can't. We need to honor that choice. No, you're not, because you've totally erased the entire agency of the female body in presenting this idea that it all comes down to the penis. You are what you hate.
She's also completely dismissing sort of the male disposability. I mean, like, millions of sperm in any one ejaculation, and most of them don't die passively. Most of them do die passively, but lots and lots and lots of them die doing kamikaze runs at the egg because they got a little sac full of acid in their fronts, right, in their foreheads essentially, that breaks open and starts burning through the cuticle. And so, like, it's essentially like storming the beach at Normandy, right? Like the first 500 guys just get mowed down by the machine gun fire, and then one guy gets through. That's how fertilization works.
Yeah.
Except with my eggs and those of my sisters, they're total floozies. They don't even need the sperm to buy them dinner. They're just like, come on in. Super fecundity. Horrible.
Yeah, but and also she's throwing away, like if she's saying that fundamentalists, and the funny thing that fundamentalists definitely believe, as far as I can tell, that man's contribution doesn't end at ejaculation. So they recognize the contribution of men for their children throughout their lives. A feminist is more likely to say that man's contribution, it should be, we should be able to, a woman should be able to decide whether or not a man should contribute any further than sperm. So, I mean, if you're going to argue that the fundamentalists, this is some sort of fundamentalist ploy to worship the penis, because we say conception begins after ejaculation, it also means that you're ignoring all of the fundamentalist emphasis on fatherhood after the ejaculation, and their emphasis on creating fatherhood, being provided, those resources being provided to children after ejaculation. They obviously think that children require more than just a father ejaculating. But, whatever. I don't know if anybody's following me, so I'm going to continue.
Everything's a project. In the case of forming a new person, two bodies produce germ cells that independently hold half a biological blueprint.
They're not germ cells.
They meet.
They're not germ cells.
That is sort of the appropriate word. It's not the same as a germ. A germ cell is kind of, as in germinate, it's the thing that produces the gamete cell. She hasn't explained that, and I think she's deliberately described it as a germ cell just to be provocative, or maybe she's just being a fucking smartass in order to get reactions. It is kind of the appropriate term.
Then a woman's body starts the structural engineering to determine whether the design actually works. For very good reasons, the answer usually is no. The engineering...
What? No, the woman's body doesn't construct the fetus. The woman's...
pretty much constructs itself. No, but he's saying... She's saying that... I think she's saying that, like, lots and lots and lots of zygotes and blastocysts are terminated at the very, very early stage, and just I don't know whether that's the majority of fertilized eggs just being rejected by the female's body, or just rejecting themselves, saying, "Oh, we're not viable, goodbye." But
it's not. But that's not structural building. That's
no.
This is to use that metaphor in this context is retarded. I mean, suddenly, women's agency starts to come out again when it's convenient. Not convenient during conception, but now it's convenient.
Maybe she's talking the woman's body can sense whether the DNA construction is viable.
Let's just continue.
The team rejects the project and dumps it into the porcelain circular file. Most embryonic humans get booted out so fast that nobody even knows they existed. If and when engineering gives the preliminary go-ahead, a woman's whole body gears up to start building a person.
Okay, fucking no! No! You know what the womb actually does? The function of the womb? Fetus builds itself. It creates itself. The only function of the womb, because the only thing that a womb is necessary for, is as a muscular organ to eject a fetus out, or a baby out into the world, and clamp down on the wound that the placenta leaves afterwards. That's the function of the womb, to save your life as a woman, because that's what it does. A womb is a place for the fetus to attach to the wall, which it takes care of itself, to derive nutrients from your bloodstream so it constructs itself. You don't construct anything. You don't build anything. It builds itself with your nutrients. And
in that environment. And
in that environment.
No, and the only thing that the woman's body really does is provide a suitable, tolerable environment for the developing fetus, or one that is not suitable or tolerable.
Actually, it doesn't even do that because a fetus can attach to any blood-rich organ. It
Yes.
creates its own environment. It just needs to attach to a blood-rich organ, and it will create the amniotic sac and the amniotic fluid. It'll handle all of that. Just needs a blood-rich organ. So what the womb really does is it keeps, when that placenta tears off the blood-rich organ, it ejects the baby and clamps down on the fucking wound so the organism doesn't die. But no construction is involved. It's actually probably more passive than the actual conception, ironically.
Well, I know I didn't do anything from day to day to become a day more pregnant.
Yeah, well, considering that, the conception for, the average or average mammal female involves finding a mate. In some mammal species, it involves fighting off the other females if he's particularly attractive, so that she can get the best spooge of the day, and it involves actually physically in her body making her the ovum actually being receptive, and there seems to be some sort of choice involved in that. It's very bizarre and esoteric. But then after that, it's basically just the fetus taking over. So you have unscientifically emphasized this bullshit. You've removed all of the agency of the woman up to conception to emphasize the part of the process she has very little agency over, until, of course, labor. Which still, I don't think women generally have that much agency over labor.
Yeah, no, you can't. It's pretty hard to pick when you're going to go into labor, how long it's going to last, how much it's going to hurt. How many pushes you're going to have to do, how many capillaries you're going to have to freaking break in your face and neck and shoulders and chest during the pushing, how much vaginal tearing you're going to have, and all. You don't get to choose any of that. In fact, it's actually one of the the process is, for me, it represented one of the points in my life where I felt the most at the mercy of outside forces, because there was literally no way I could decide, okay, I don't actually want to do this anymore. Okay, so we're just going to stop, and or I can figure out a way to make this not happen anymore. Yeah, no, there's
Yeah.
You're freaking 10 hours into labor. There's no changing your mind now. It's going to happen. I can only imagine it would feel similar to slamming on your brakes, right? And sliding on ice, that feeling as you're sliding on ice toward an object, and there's nothing you can do.
Yeah, and but I want to point out to all of this is that she's replacing some of the most, like the idea, the old idea that a woman was a fallow field that a man ejaculated his seeds into, and his genes or his progeny or whatever was the only thing. She's replacing that with an equally supremacist and stupid and unscientific concept about women's wombs building fetuses, which is not what happens. Okay, that is ridiculous.
It happens in the way that I guess similarly in the way that like soil builds plants.
Yeah. So she's erasing women's the actual points where women have agency over the process, selecting the partner, having sex with the partner, her body actually making the choices, or her ovum making the selection of the sperm, which I don't know how that happens, but apparently it does. Even ignoring the fact that the woman's pheromones will change him hormonally, all of that ignored in favor of presenting a completely unscientific view of pregnancy, in which a woman's womb is somehow like some sort of like robot factory building the fetus. It's ridiculous. Anyway.
Her circulatory system pumps up blood flow, her bones and teeth transfer calcium to the construction site, her digestive system demands enough food for two.
Her bones and teeth
Not
do
only is the
not.
process
Her bones and teeth do not decide to transfer calcium to the construction site. No. See, here's the thing. The fetus pulls what it needs. It pulls that out of the blood. Your blood needs calcium. Your blood is prioritized when it comes to calcium because it's required for certain things that have to occur within your muscles. Okay? So if you don't have calcium in your bloodstream, your muscles do not work, right? And that is the immediate thing. And so your body prioritizes that, and it will start pulling calcium out. If there's not enough calcium in your blood, it will start pulling calcium out of your bones and teeth to replenish the calcium in your blood, because that's the most immediate survival need, is for your muscles to be functional, right? Your bones can withstand a little bit of depletion and bone loss. Your teeth can extend a little bit of softening, and you'll survive for another 10 years with soft teeth, right? Or 20 years, right? But you will not survive till tomorrow if you can't run away from a fucking puma, right? Or a pack of wolves, or whatever, or another human who's trying to kill you, right? So your muscles are prioritized. And because your muscles are fed by your bloodstream, and so is the fetus, and the fetus pulls everything that it needs out of your blood will then, it's not your teeth and your fucking bones and your body deciding to sacrifice itself for the fetus. No, it's just the fetus saying, this shit's for me, right? And I'm going to take it, and then it's your body compensating for that. You didn't give that away. That wasn't charity. It was taken from you without you being part of the decision.
slow and costly, like any construction project. It's dangerous. 800 American women die every year from pregnancy. Around
How many?
800? 800? That can't be right.
No, I think that's probably right.
Okay, well, 200 boys die from circumcision, so there you go.
Closer to 300. But, yeah, no,
And way more men probably die on the job paying for child support or giving the resources to their children.
oh, yeah,
Or they
no,
just
that's
get killed for getting a woman pregnant.
in the
Or just,
thousands.
yeah. Okay.
the world, it's that many every day. Most of us survive the project, but we do endure nausea and swollen ankles and fatigue and irreversible wear and tear. When we women choose to incubate a child, which we often do quite gladly, we do so knowing our bodies and lives will never be the same again. So, patriarchs, love your orgasms all you like, but don't fall for the weirdly puffed up idea that they make babies.
Okay, I don't think you need to address that to patriarchs. I think you need to address that to old bitch called Mother Nature. Because yes, they do.
Yeah,
At least
no,
they're instrumental.
men and women make babies. They're both a necessary part of the process.
Yeah.
And
But-
it sucks. It sucks that we women are the ones who have to go through all of that, but at the same time, having been through it 3 times and it's sucking in many ways, all 3 times, was also wondrous and wonderful and great, and you know, all of those things too. Like it was not just a sacrifice I made. It was a wonderful process that I went through, and yes, my body was never the same again. But so what?
Yeah. Your body actually goes through a lot of changes in its life. So, let's
Penis power is solely limited to fertilizing eggs, and a fertilized egg is a fertilized egg, no less, no more.
I like how they went round the houses to eventually land on, yeah, the penis has nothing to do with fertilization. GTFO. I mean, given that they started on, you know, the premise of the opposite of that, that the idea of that life begins at conception is all about the penis being the entirety of creating a person, and now here they are landing right on no. The
the
egg
penis
and
has
the womb are
nothing
the
to do with
entirety
it.
of creating a person.
Yeah, the
Wow.
womb is the entirety. So basically what we're seeing is the mirror image of all of those people, and this is probably 2,000 years ago, were like, oh yeah, the penis is everything. It's just ejecting seeds into fallow earth,
Yeah,
and the
no, but
woman offers nothing.
even then, okay, even that attitude, right, did not erase the woman. It did not erase her role in that. I mean, she had to be fertile. She had to be fertile soil, right? Even if they saw him as planting seeds because they didn't understand the biological mechanisms of it, even if they felt like he was planting seeds, right? Seeds cast onto rocks, right? You know, or onto a glacier, don't
Don't
germinate.
Yeah, so
They don't do
there's still some emphasis, but I mean it seems like the own kind of supremacist notion. It's really women's genitals that build babies, right? That's what's really going on. That's
Yeah.
really ugly. That you're
Um,
taking away a part of men's humanity. You don't have to say that men are the whole thing. They're half the thing. But you don't. Why are you saying that they're none of the thing? And if you
nobody.
are saying they're none of the thing, then they should have none of the responsibility. If you're saying that it's actually women that or wombs that construct babies, then wombs should also pay for them.
Nobody in history has ever said or thought or imagined a universe in which a man could like jerk off into a sock, okay, and a baby would grow
Actually,
out.
no. This is what's really creepy about a lot of the feminist rhetoric. Specifically, this very supremacist, guys, this is supremacist rhetoric, this idea that wombs build babies. That's where babies come from, is wombs, and conceptions are just blueprints. But it's the womb that builds the baby. And so the woman is entirely responsible for building the baby. This is supremacist rhetoric, and it has happened in the past towards women. Specifically, like one of the first science fiction stories ever was about a society on the moon where boys gave birth through their thighs. Now, it was Greek. It was an ancient Greek story. Or not ancient Greek, but yeah, I guess it would be ancient Greek. Ancient Greek story. Pretty much the first science fiction ever. A bunch of Greeks, men, went to the moon and found a society where women didn't exist. And that women were not part of any aspect of the gestation process. And that's what they wrote about. And this is what's creepy, because you see the same fucking shit today with feminists. This kind of supremacist shit, where they're trying to propose the notion that only women build babies.
Okay, but this was science fiction. This was absolute fiction. This wasn't like this is how things actually are.
Oh yeah, you're
This,
right.
like this woman is essentially saying, women are 100% of making babies, and calorically speaking, right? Minimum caloric investment, in just the barest freaking terms, right? To make a baby, right? Dudes maybe got 150, 200 calories invested in that, right? From that little teaspoon of carbohydrate and sperm, and 5 minutes of thrusting, okay? That's his minimum investment, right? Her minimum investment is much bigger as far as calories, right? But there's never been a point in human history where any culture suggested that women were not part of the equation.
Yeah. Well, and I'd also point out that, a lot of those calories would have been supplied by him. So,
Yeah, no. Minimum biological investment. Two people passing in the night, right? Freaking decide they're going to bump uglies for 5 minutes, then go their separate ways, and a baby comes about, right? Biologically, minimum investment. Now, everything that we have built as human society, the fact that we expect men to take responsibility, to support not just their offspring, but the mothers of their offspring, right? All of those things, those are all much closer to what we would consider social constructions. They now have all kinds of biological facilitators and biological mitigators and, you know, dopamine receptor genes and vasopressin and all kinds of bonding hormones and all of that stuff, right? But you look at chimpanzees, they're all single mothers. You look at bonobos, they're all single mothers, right? And the only males that invest in those children, in those juveniles, and those females are not the fathers of the juveniles that they're taking care of, right? They're just there because they're subordinate males who can't get a mating opportunity any other way, right? And she's like, oh, well, the extra help is just so nice. I think I'll give him sex and keep him coming back, right? And that's how that works in chimpanzee and bonobo societies. And that's how it could have worked in human societies. And I don't think we'd be human if things had worked that way, if things had turned out that way in our reproductive model. Our reproductive model involved a huge amount of the environment creating pressures and society, social structures creating pressures to force men to take responsibility, socially coerce them, legally coerce them into taking responsibility for the provisioning and the protection of the offspring they helped create and the mothers of those offspring. Human women do not fucking realize how lucky we have had it. Because, you know, the only thing, you know what I know, is that one thing that would be harder than being a single mom in modern day Canada, it's being a single mom in the fucking jungles of the Congo.
I think that would probably be a recipe for almost.
It'd be a recipe for, I don't know, having to have my babies grow up so quick that they just can't even develop brain structures that lead to language acquisition, you know, and oh my goodness, we can sort of build spears and we can throw rocks and bash things with them, and oh my goodness, I just don't know whether I want to dig grubs out of this rotten log or masturbate with this bent stick I found, right? That's what that led to for bonobos and chimpanzees, right? We did things differently, and here we fucking are.
Yeah, and we have somebody completely omitting the half of the equation that is male. Very unpleasantly in my mind. And it's not even just that I worry about a society where men don't invest. It seems like it's really contemptible, this attitude. Anyway.
Well, it's ungrateful. It's ungrateful. It's ingratitude. It's spitting in the face of a gift. Somebody handed you a Fabergé egg, and you just were like, this isn't what I did. It's turquoise. I hate turquoise. And you just throw it on the fucking ground.
How dare you say this Fabergé egg has value?
Yeah.
You know, it's like, yeah, it's like, yes. And I wouldn't say it's not a gift necessarily from social structure. Well, I mean, it's pretty much at the hormonal level now for guys, so they're stuck with it.
But it didn't start out that way, and it took a long fucking time for us to get from where we were 6 million years ago to the point where men actually have this instinct to provide and protect and take care of and nurture and be close to their babies and all of those things, to have that built into them, right? Took millennia and millennia and millennia, thousands of lifetimes, thousands of generations of choices on behalf of men and women to choose for men who were like that.
Yep. But of course we can always go back very briefly to a society where that isn't so. Yeah, okay.
Real fatherhood.
Oh, pause.
Silly willy worship.
Silly willy worship aside, what you're about to get, not that there isn't a lot to be said for the mere chemical and biological component of a man being necessary just by existing. What you're about to get in the following paragraph is a surprising moment of clarity, a surprisingly thoughtful nexus of empathy in the middle of this shitstorm of utter fucking insanity. It's like finding a peach inside the trunk of a cactus. So if you take nothing else away from this author, take the following subsection. As they say, whatsoever things are of good report, if there be any virtue and if there be any praise, think on these things. Alison.
Real fatherhood. Silly willy worship aside, many men deserve real credit for making children because they take on the actual parenthood project in a deep and devoted way. Wanting to be good parents of healthy children, they wear condoms till the time is right, put their lives in order, bring home prenatal vitamins, and make peanut butter sandwiches in the middle of the night. When pregnancy ends, they endure labor vicariously. Yes, vicarious pain hurts. Anxiously awaiting the slimy little creature that will spill out in a puddle of blood. Labor over, they gingerly hold a sweet-smelling flannel-wrapped burrito and look into the eyes that are seeing the world for the first time and fall in love. Back in the home, they have helped to create. They wipe spit up off shirts and go to work bleary-eyed when illness strikes and a child can't sleep. In better times, they get down on the rug and play pretend and read stories, even though maybe, just once in a while, they'd rather be playing video games or reading the Times. They understand that making something as wonderfully complex as a fully fledged, thriving person takes everything a parent can give for decades, and they give it.
Okay, pause. It just goes downhill from here. It's just more disaster from here on in. But just drink in that last paragraph, because that was all right.
I actually started getting a little bit misty.
Oh man, I hate this when this happens though, because it never fails. You have this moment of clarity and almost empathy, and then they whiplash you into the most. I don't know if that's going to happen. So maybe we should just.
But here's the thing. Here's the thing. This is what patriarchy is. This is what patriarchy has always been based on.
Does she honestly think that fundamentalists and Christians don't see that and don't want to encourage that in men? I mean, you can say a lot about them, but they do value fatherhood.
They value fatherhood. They value their children. They value nurturance. They value supporting their families. They value all of those things. They value not abandoning. Okay, let's compare the number of men who abandoned their children, right? 500 years ago, the proportion of men who abandoned their children, who said, "Yeah, no, fuck it, I'm not. Yeah, I'll cut you a check every month, but yeah, I don't want anything to do with this shit," right? 500 years ago with now, right? This whole the entirety of the patriarchal structure, societal structure, has been to essentially encourage and enforce paternal responsibility toward mothers and children, right? And to reward men for that, to reward them with respect. And we have 40 or 50 years of the sexual revolution and feminism and free love and all of this bullshit, and all of that's falling apart. Don't blame the fucking religious fundamentalists.
Yeah, they were. I mean, the idea that feminism respects fatherhood more than even Christians and fundamentalists and whatever, that just doesn't. It rings really false. I appreciate your sentiments. I just feel like you're not willing to follow through. And we don't have to have a fundamentalist society based on Christianity to respect fatherhood. It can be based on biology. All of the changes that men go through when they become fathers. And the other thing is that fundamentalists would look at abortion not just, in fact, they more often look at abortion as taking men off the hook, and look at it in terms of men pressuring women into it. And a lot of they're
getting off scot-free. They get to dip their wick whenever they like, and they don't have to live with the consequences.
Exactly. That's a lot of the fundamentalist thought around abortion, which you completely do not address, is that they do not like, and they often blame, even when there's really no reason to, blame men wanting to get off the hook on abortion, that men are pressuring women into having abortions. And that a lot of their anger towards abortion may also be anger towards men who don't respect the lives of their children or their potential children. there is a lot of judgment towards men in this whole abortion rhetoric on the fundamentalist side.
Yeah, women wouldn't have to have abortions if men were willing to stick around and live up to their responsibilities.
Or women wouldn't have to have abortions. Yeah, exactly. If men were acting more like proper pillars of their community and fathers and taking responsibility for their actions. You're omitting that whole section of fundamentalist rhetoric and expectation that is put on men. Christian rhetoric and expectation that's put on men to provide. They're not saying, yeah, men should be able to walk away. In fact, they're the group of people least likely to say that.
They're the group of people most likely to run a man to the altar at the end of a fucking shotgun.
Yeah. So they're not, this isn't a situation where they're saying, yeah, we're going to celebrate the production of conception and say that's the only thing that a man provides. Let's worship the penis, rah, rah, rah. It's total bullshit. I'm not a fundamentalist Christian. I have my issues with them, but please be honest about what they say.
Yeah, no, and like again, like we're not endorsing fundamentalist religious values. We're not endorsing, Mormonism or Islam, like Sharia or like like evangelical Christianity or anything like that. But if you're going to criticize them, if you're going to attribute an attitude to them, at least be fucking honest about what their attitude is, right? And their attitude has never been that men could just walk around wagging their dicks everywhere and impregnating women willy-nilly and not taking responsibility for the outcome.
Oh,
I mean,
their attitude has never been.
Shotgun weddings didn't tend to happen when the woman discovered she was pregnant. They happened at the moment her dad discovered she'd had sex, because she could be pregnant, right? And if he wasn't going to keep his dick in his pants, he was going to take responsibility.
Yeah, and these communities, they don't think that a child's resources to a child ends for a father when he ejaculates. So, like I said, if you're going to criticize them, at least criticize them honestly. Okay, let's go to the final. Let's see how dark the turn is.
Ahem. Name it. Conception worship is willy worship. It diminishes fatherhood by trivializing the many other parts of themselves that men can and do bring to the process of creating a new person. Heart and mind, labor and love.
Well,
and it diminishes all.
But conception worship would not have been willy worship back in the days of shotgun weddings. It would have been willy responsibility. It would have been, conception has happened or could conceivably happen. Therefore, we're going to enforce your investment. We're gonna enforce you in that role of taking further responsibility.
They're not just saying the conception happened, oh yeah, the woman has to take responsibility. At all costs, they will force the man to take responsibility too, or hang him. So it's not, like Karen's saying, it's not willy worship, it's willy responsibility. And he better. Will he take that responsibility? He better. Or his name is gonna be mud. So where are you getting this? And
from her imagination. From women's studies, from frickin' Andrea Dworkin and all of the rest of the team. That's where she's getting it from. Like, she's just been fed. You can tell she's just been fed this sort of one-sided stream of demagoguery. It's just like this rhetoric, this frickin' completely twisting everything into, men are privileged, men are viewed as superior, women are oppressed, women are viewed as inferior. That's the end of story. Let's take every single social norm in isolation, right? Just like in Oklahoma, like Christy Winters, right? Her recent debate with Sargon of Akkad. she claimed that forcing your penis into the mouth of a passed out, drunk, or drugged woman, right, in Oklahoma is not a crime, right? Because it's not considered rape, and there was a decision in the Superior Court that it doesn't count as rape. Now, it doesn't count as rape because in Oklahoma law, rape only counts as penetration of vagina or anus, right, by the penis. But she claimed that it wasn't a crime. It wasn't considered a crime. It's not a crime, even though it falls under the statute regarding sexual battery, which has a first offense sentence of up to 20 years. So an extremely serious felony with a potential 20-year sentence attached to the very first offense falls under that statute. So she's lying, right? She's just taking this one tiny little law in isolation without looking at the entire body of laws and statutes that govern sexual assault, right? And she's literally saying, oh, this isn't considered a crime in Oklahoma. And I've seen this thing posted on Facebook. My boyfriend's seen it. People on his feed posting this decision. Oh my God, oral rape is legal in Oklahoma. Yeah, no, it's not. It's just not called rape, but it's still a crime with a potential 20-year sentence. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you people? You take one tiny little thing out of the broader context, and you're like, oh, it says in the Bible he planted his seed in fertile ground, and then a baby happened, and therefore the woman was like completely, and there's just penis worshipping. What?
Well, I don't see how replacing it with this grandiose mythology about the womb constructing fetuses.
And it's
ridiculous.
not just the womb constructing fetuses. It's like the entire woman's biology is some kind of charity that does it out of the goodness of its heart. It just generously donates calcium from its teeth and bones. No, it doesn't. That shit is just stolen. Okay,
but this isn't so bad. Let's see how bad it gets.
All of motherhood. So if you're one of the guys...
Wait, let's move a little bit back. Okay, I'm going to go for a long stretch here.
Person, heart and mind, labor and love, and it diminishes all of motherhood. So if you're one of the guys who either is or intends to be a real father, please call out posers who think themselves endowed with some divine instrument that can turn an egg into a precious little person. And if
you realize that it's entirely possible that at conception or close to conception, men start to change hormonally to accommodate a child, just like the woman does.
Actually, most mammals do this. Most male mammals do this. Lions, like any mammal where the males live, tournament species, right? Like gorillas, where the males live in close proximity to those juveniles, chimpanzees and stuff, right? At or shortly after conception, their hormones, their aggression goes down, their hormones adjust, and because you got babies around, and most of these species where this happens are those species where so most of the offspring, 95% of the offspring are sired by between 5 and 20% of the males, and the males are highly aggressive with each other in terms of competing for mating opportunities and access to females and all of this stuff, right? And so they actually, their bodies accommodate the fact that, okay, now there's babies around, so we got to be calmer, we got to be gentler, we got to be less aggressive, we got to be nicer, and all of that.
Well, in this case, it's
human males too, and it's human males. It starts happening before conception. It starts happening when pair bonding starts happening.
No, well, it might also be amplified. I'm pretty sure that the studies that I've seen, it sort of amps up during, I don't know, there must be pheromones that pregnant women give off or something. But
it could even just be knowing.
Yeah.
It could even be knowing that your partner is pregnant.
Yeah.
Well, may not even be pheromones. I mean, because there are some things that like when When a man knows that his wife is leaving tomorrow morning or in 3 days for a week-long business trip and she's going to be out of his sight, his sperm count goes up.
Yeah, so it could be a combination of that. It also happens with other pair bonding mammals. But that's the thing. It happens, something changes about men at conception or very close to. And it the idea that you can allow that men bond so deeply with their offspring or be so wanting to have a child, but be and so indifferent to abortion. It's just, I mean, we don't have to.
Oh my God, yeah.
We
I mean,
don't have to. We don't have to say that women can give up their right to choose what happens to their bodily resources in accepting that we need to respect that men's emotions around the subject. It's like it seems to be either or. Either you're pro-choice.
Men don't have a right to feel any way about it, let alone have any choice about it. They don't. I mean, and I can understand they don't have a right to a choice about it, but they don't even have a right to feel a certain way about it.
Yeah, that's what really gets me. You can't, like, if a guy wants to be a father, this is going to affect him, and he has a right to have those emotions respected. Like, it's like Karen said, it doesn't mean that that the woman doesn't get a final choice over the resources of her body, but you can have that and have respect and compassion for the fact that that's part of him too. And
actually,
this doesn't offer any respect or compassion for that.
No, and it was one of those things too. I mean, like, there were even MRAs who took issue with Cassie J's trailer for the Red Pill movie, because it had Tom Golden saying, well, if he doesn't want the child and she keeps it, what do you tell him? If he wants to have the child and she decides to abort, what do you tell him? Right? And even MRAs were construing that as some kind of implied suggestion that men should have a right to veto a woman's choice to have an abortion, right? I can't imagine Tom Golden suggesting anything of the sort. His entire freaking career has been built on respecting men's feelings, even if their feelings cannot be acted on, even if there is no way to allow their feelings to take precedence over somebody else's, right? Like in terms of abortion, the woman should have the final say, because it's her body, right? But you have to acknowledge that a man who wanted that child, who was looking forward to that child, who's maybe planning with her to have that child, and then, she freaked out, or she just decided, oh my God, I'm not ready, or they broke up, or what, and she's like, I don't want this, that there's going to be some emotional fallout from that. And what do you tell that guy, right? I mean, it is a really, really difficult position to be in. It's a completely it's as, I can imagine that would be a position that feels as helpless as I felt when I was in labor, right? When I slammed my foot on the brakes and I was just like flying across ice toward a freaking tanker truck full of flammable liquid, right? And there's just nothing you can do, right? There's nothing you can do other than just let your emotions process and maybe reach out for somebody who's compassionate and understanding about what you're feeling. But men aren't men aren't even allowed to feel that.
Yeah, and honestly, what kind of man are you encouraging here? Like, any kind of man who would have that kind of compassion and dedication, and which would probably be most men, because they're humans, would also have some pretty dark and painful feelings around abortion as well, because they're going to have that hormonal prime. And the other thing is that abortion does change the man's body. Like, he goes from being an expectant father to not being an expectant father anymore, and that's going to have a physical effect on him. And it's like, and none of this matters to you people. Anyway.
If you would, while you're at it, you can do us women a favor by calling out the equally ludicrous conceit that the touch of a penis turns a female from one kind of being into another. Men
Will
don't
do.
have magic on.
I will do. I will be like,
Oh,
okay,
definitely.
the penis cannot turn you into a victim or a survivor.
Yeah.
In their pants, just body parts, and exaggerating the power of your dick just makes you one.
Awesome. So there's no such thing as a slut. No matter how many men have been inside you, a slut will never have any effect. Is that how it works? Good. We'll
Good.
put that into effect.
Yeah, let's put all that into effect. The touch of a man's penis can't turn you into a victim, can't turn you into a survivor, can't turn you into a slut, can't turn you into a whore, can't do anything to you negative. Great.
Yeah.
Great. Now we can talk about the positives for once.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
And in the meantime, we might as well make a word for a man who's touched too many vaginas. I quite like flapper.
Flapper.
This mate of mine's the biggest flapper I've ever seen. He's fucked like 50 women. Alien, isn't it? It sounds completely alien. The idea that you would use a slur for a man who's touched too many vaginas. Ah.
Yeah.
It does sound really alien.
I don't know,
All
there's
right.
like man whore, there's dog, there's player, but that usually has to do with not with a man having sex with lots of women, but having sex with lots of women and then not following up with giving them things that they want.
Yeah. Well, I think it's that time.
Mm.
Yeah,
All
we
right.
have to say goodbye. Say goodbye to our lovely listening colleagues.
Now it's time to say goodbye.
Yeah, and if you enjoy this kind of content, if you've come this far, why don't you come a little bit further and consider becoming a patron. www.patreon.com/honeybadgerradio. Every bit helps, and we do have lewds for those people who do become patrons.
No nudes though. No nudes though, just lewds.
No nudes, just lewds. So there you go. I think that's a good incentive. Maybe there'll be lewds of Mike.
And boobs.
And
Boobs.
boobs.
It's Anime Lewd Month.
Not boobs, because that would be crap. No, ours are boobs.
It's May after all. It's Asian and Pacific American Appreciation Month. So post your anime nudes all through May. Hooray!
I want to see a lewd of the Doctor reclining like an odalisque with just like a scrap of cloth artfully draped over.
How about the codger puppet?
Nether. Oh yeah, no, and he could be lying.
Can you say lemon party?
Oh fuck. Okay. Goodbye, everyone.